Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be taking the plunge once more and exploring the second layer of the Elder Scrolls Iceberg. We're still barely beneath the surface, and yet the lore is already becoming dangerously unhinged. By the time we get to the bottom, I'll probably need a long vacation in the Shivering Isles to regain my lost sanity. Once again, I've left a link to the full iceberg image in the description if you want to take a closer look yourself. And I've included a link to the other videos in the series if you want to hear more about the deepest, darkest and weirdest secrets the Elder Scrolls has to offer. So without further ado, let's do this thing. 60. Giants are orcs. This is a theory that suggests that giants and orcs may share some common ancestry. This seems to be mainly based on appearances. In Skyrim, the models for giants have bony protrusions on their upper brow, in a manner similar to some orcs. However, we already know that orcs are a type of elf, and though the true origins of giants are more mysterious, they are usually associated with the lost northern continent of Atmora, meaning that this theory is unlikely to be true. 61. Star Wound. This phrase refers to the heart of Lorcan, which was ripped from the missing god and thrown across the sea, landing on the island of Vardenfell in Morowind and forming Red Mountain, the towering volcano in the centre of the island. This story has led to the land of Morrowind being described as the Star-Wounded East in Vivek's 36 Lessons, symbolising the centrality of Lorcan in the history and mythology of Morrowind. 62. Armond Motier. Armond Motier is the character who orders the assassination of Emperor Titus Mede II in Skyrim's Dark Brotherhood questline. He's a member of a powerful noble family with a seat on the Elder Council, and it's implied that he wants Titus dead to further his own political ambitions. Yet curiously, Motier's NPC has two different versions with slightly different appearances, which has given rise to a theory that the version of Motier the player kills is actually an imposter or body double. 63. Karthwasten Massacre. During the Season Unending quest in Skyrim, General Tullius accuses Ulfric Stormcloak of orchestrating a massacre at Karthwasten, a village in the Reach known for its silver mines. Ulfric denies this allegation, and no other characters or text confirm or elaborate on the event. It's certainly possible that it was a real atrocity covered up by the Stormcloaks, or possibly a piece of Imperial propaganda, yet it also seems likely that it's just a reference to content that was cut from the final game. Either way, a definitive answer remains unclear. 64. Grey Cowl. The Grey Cowl of Nocturnal is a powerful Daedric artifact tied to the Thieves Guild. The Thieves Guild Grandmaster Emer Daraloth is said to have stolen the crown from Nocturnal herself. In reply, the Daedric prince placed a curse on the artifact. When worn, it grants the wearer the identity of the legendary thief, the Grey Fox, while simultaneously erasing their true identity from history. This curse was broken with the power of an Elder Scroll at the end of the Oblivion Thieves Guild questline, but the cowl persists as a legend among Tamriel's thieves to this day. 65. Falma Wisp Mothers. Wisp Mothers are ghostly, frost-wielding monsters who haunt Skyrim's coldest regions, luring travellers to their doom. While many believe them to be mere legends, the book The Wisp Mother presents a chilling theory, that they are all that remains of the snow elves who once ruled Skyrim. The idea that Wisp Mothers are the final spectral remnants of the once majestic Falma is certainly an intriguing possibility. However, scholars have offered more plausible theories for their origins, such as that they are elemental spirits, or lich-like sorceresses from a forgotten First Era culture. 66. Thalmor Eugenic Purges. According to the in-game book Rising Threat, one of the first acts of the Thalmor after gaining control in the Somerset Isles was to exterminate anyone not of the blood of the Ealdmer. This purge served both ideological and political purposes, not only targeting those deemed genetically undesirable, but also silencing any opposition. In Skyrim, Delphine notes that Malborn's family was murdered by the Thalmor in Valenwood, possibly part of one of these purges, implying that what we know of the Thalmor's atrocities only scratches the surface. 67. Soul Trade. Tamriel has many strange commodities, but perhaps none stranger than the soul trade. In the Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard, the slowed necromancer Nagaster references an illicit soul trade involving his patron, the Daedric prince Clavicus Vile. Similarly, the ideal masters of the soul cairn are known as soul merchants, trafficking mortal souls in exchange for power. It seems that in some realms of existence, souls are not sacred, but merely another form of currency. 68. Fort Dawnguard built for Harkon. In Skyrim, Isran tells the Dragonborn that Fort Dawnguard was originally built by a Jarl of Riften, who created the fortress to imprison his son, who had been turned into a vampire. Some have speculated that this unnamed son was actually Lord Harkon himself, the leader of the Volkihar vampire clan. The timelines could plausibly match, and it would provide an interesting symmetry to the Dawnguard storyline, as the prison once built to contain Harkon is now used as the base for the resistance against him. 69. Thu'um. The Thu'um, or the Voice, is a powerful form of tonal magic, most famously used by the dragons and the Nords. Each word of power changes the nature of reality itself, capable of great feats, from breathing fire to summoning storms. In ancient times, the Nords wielded the voice in war as a weapon of mass destruction. Its users, known as tongues, were capable of shouting down city walls, and often had to be gagged to protect those around them. Now, the Greybeards follow a more peaceful path, dedicating their lives to studying the voice and pursuing inner peace. It can take a Greybeard years to learn a single syllable, but a Dragonborn can absorb knowledge of the voice from slaying a dragon, thus learning in a short time what it would take other tongues decades of study to achieve. 70. Devaith Fire still alive. During the Red Year, Vardenfell was devastated by the fall of Bar Dow and the eruption of Red Mountain, and most of its inhabitants were killed or forced to flee. Yet some speculate that Devaith Fire, the 4,000-year-old Telvanni wizard lord, somehow survived this disaster. His mastery of magic means that he's functionally immune to old age, and also makes him very, very hard to kill. There are countless ways he could have used his power to protect himself against the destruction of Vardenfell. For example, we know that Devaith is an expert on Daedra and the Plains of Oblivion, so it's possible that he protected himself by moving to another realm of existence. Though we don't know for sure, the idea that he's still out there is more likely than not. After all, death is for lesser mortals. 71. The Old Ways. The Old Ways is an in-game book by Solarius the Lawmaster, which explains the esoteric philosophy of the Psijic Order, the oldest monastic group in Tamriel. It's a belief system rooted in mysticism, and the idea that true power comes from understanding the structure of the Eorbis, the metaphysical framework of reality. The Psijics follow these teachings to guide magical and spiritual development, often intervening subtly in mortal affairs when they believe it necessary to restore balance. While revered by mystics, the Psijics' teachings are often viewed with suspicion by other mages. Too obscure, too secretive, too alien to fully trust. 72. Slowed soap made from slowed. One of the strangest alchemical items in the Elder Scrolls is slowed soap, an ingredient first seen in Morowind. It is described as being made from immature, non-sentient forms of the slowed, the race of grotesque necromantic slugs from the coral kingdom of Thras. According to scholar Tellinger the Artificer, the slowed care little for their young, who resemble grubs in nature. They weed out the weakest, killing them and rendering them down into soaps, which they then use as ingredients in their necromantic arts. Slowed soap is rarely seen outside of Thras, and it commands high prices from alchemists, who relish its unique properties. 73. Headless Horseman. The Headless Horseman is a mysterious ghost who appears as a rare random encounter in Skyrim. The spectral rider will silently gallop across the countryside on his ghostly steed, always travelling towards Hamvir's Rest, a barrow northeast of Whiterun, before vanishing into the night. He cannot be harmed or interacted with, and his presence is never explained in-game. But some have theorised he may be a reference to the famous Ragnar the Red, the boastful warrior from the tavern song of the same name, who lost his head in a duel. 74. Memory Stones. Memory Stones are rare magical relics primarily associated with the Ansei sword singers of ancient Yakuda. These enchanted gems were used to preserve memories or knowledge, allowing one to store thoughts, emotions, and even martial techniques for future generations. They played a key role in the preservation of Yakudan culture after its destruction, particularly among Redguard scholars and warriors. Some memory stones were formalized in ritual use, while others may have contained priceless secrets now lost to time. 75. Giant Mud Crabs. Giant mud crabs are a recurring oddity throughout the Elder Scrolls series. In Morrowind, the massive city-sized shell of a dead emperor crab named Scar serves as the mana district of Ald'ruhn. In Skyrim, a massive mud crab shell can be found in an unmarked location west of Whiterun. Its spirit can also be fought during the Kyne's Sacred Trials quest. While not particularly intimidating, their sheer size makes these mud crabs memorable encounters. 76. Azure Plasm. Azure Plasm is a rare blue substance found in the lakes and pools of Cold Harbour, Molag Bal's realm of oblivion. It is a physical manifestation of chaotic creatia, the raw, shapeless essence of Padamaic energy from which Daedra are formed. When a Daedra is killed in Tamriel, its soul will return to oblivion, where it slowly reconstitutes a new form through the medium of Azure Plasm. This regenerative cycle is what allows Daedra to be functionally immortal, essentially serving as a lore-friendly version of respawning. 77. Secret Tunnels Under White Gold. In Oblivion, the final Thieves Guild quest leads the player through hidden tunnels deep underneath the White Gold Tower in the Imperial City. These tunnels are revealed by activating the mysterious Glass of Time, a strange hourglass-like artifact found in the Palace District. The tunnels themselves seem far more ancient than the city above, and remain largely unexplained, hinting at forgotten layers of the city's deep history, and possible Ayleid or early Imperial construction. 78. Skyforge. The Skyforge is an ancient sacred forge found atop a rocky outcrop in Whiterun, known for producing some of the best weapons and armour in Tamriel. It is said to predate both Whiterun and Jorrvaskr, possibly built by the first Atmorans to settle in Skyrim. The Companions believe that the forge possesses mystical power, that the souls of ancient Nords are what gives Skyforge steel its strength. Beneath it lies the Underforge, a secret chamber used by the inner circle of the Companions for their secretive werewolf rituals. 79. Hidden Imperial Archives. This entry is likely referring to the fate of the Pocket Guide to the Empire, 2nd edition. The 1st and 3rd editions can be found in-game, but the 2nd is mysteriously missing. That's because the 2nd edition was written as part of a Bethesda forums community involving Michael Kirkbride, but it was never finished and made explicitly canon. It's since surfaced on the fan site, the Imperial Library, with an in-universe editor's note explaining that the text was hidden away in a forbidden library of the Moth Chantry. These forbidden libraries serve as a lore-friendly way to explain away unfinished or retcon texts within the Elder Scrolls universe. 80. How did Daggerfall get its name? According to a history of Daggerfall, the name of the city stems from an old Breton legend. The first chieftain of the region threw a dagger and claimed that wherever it landed would mark the border of his new land, thus the name Daggerfall. However, the book also notes that other competing legends have a claim to the name, leaving the true origin shrouded in myth. As with much in Tamriel, the lines between history and mythology are often blurred. 81. End of Times Cult. The End of Times is a doomsday cult encountered in the Tribunal expansion for Morrowind. Led by a zealot named Eno Romari, its members believed that the tribunal were false gods and that the end of the world was imminent, specifically a Daedric invasion that would mark the fall of Tamriel. Their beliefs eerily foreshadow the events of the Oblivion Crisis, perhaps a subtle way for Bethesda to tease the plot of the next game. 82. Female Giants. From Daggerfall to Skyrim, only male giants appeared in the Elder Scrolls games. This led some fans to speculate that there are no giant women, and that giants simply spring from holes in the ground. This mystery was eventually solved by the Orsinium DLC for the Elder Scrolls Online, which elaborated upon the giants' culture, introducing the idea of matriarchs. Though rare, these female giants are powerful opponents and play important leadership roles in giant tribes. 83. Meteoric Glass. Meteoric Glass is a rare magical substance that falls to Nirn from Aetherius, the realm of starlight and divine magic. Though similar in name to the glass used in armour, this substance is far more arcane, used by ancient cultures like the Allesias, who could cultivate it and grow it into luminous structures. They also used it to create powerful artefacts such as Vala and Welkin stones, many of which can still be found buried in the ruins scattered across Cyrodiil. 84. Allesias' Burial Place. The final resting place of Saint Allesia, the first Empress of Cyrodiil and the liberator of mankind, remains a mystery cloaked in myth. The most accepted theory places her tomb beneath the ancient city of Sancre Tor. This city was sacred to the Reman dynasty, who continued the tradition of burial there. However, a competing legend claims that she rests below the Temple of the One in the Imperial city. Though the truth has been lost to time, Allesia remains a powerful symbol of Imperial legacy. 85. Doppelganger heirs. In Morowind, one rumour hints that during Jagar Tharn's 10-year usurpation of the Ruby Throne, the heirs of Uriel Septim VII were secretly replaced by doppelgangers. Some even claim that they may have been shape-shifting Daedra placed there by Jagar Tharn. When the Emperor was restored, a mob in the Imperial city demanded that these false heirs be destroyed. In response, the city guard massacred the mob. Another rumour line speculates that this may have been a part of Cyrodiil power politics, with some generals having one eye on the throne themselves. So perhaps the rumours were sown as a way to discredit the Emperor, allowing for the claim of his heirs to be challenged after his death. In the end, it wouldn't matter much, as both the Emperor and his line were wiped out during the Oblivion Crisis. 86. Lorcan Demiurge. This is less of a theory than a parallel to real-life religion. Some fans have drawn a connection between Lorcan, the trickster god who created Mundus, with the figure of the Demiurge, a creator figure from the real-world Gnostic belief system. In Gnosticism, the Demiurge is responsible for trapping souls in a flawed material world, often seen as motivated by either ignorance or malevolence. This maps eerily well onto how Mer view Lorcan as a cosmic betrayer. This theory draws heavily from how writer Michael Kirkbride has been inspired by real-life religious and philosophical traditions. This is quite a complicated topic, and I can't really do it justice here, so I'll link some relevant sources in the description if you want to read up on this more. 87. Ideal Masters. The Ideal Masters are the enigmatic overlords of the Soul Cairn, a desolate Oblivion realm where trapped souls are imprisoned for eternity. The Ideal Masters were once powerful necromancers who achieved a twisted form of immortality by transforming themselves into soul energy crystals. They feed on trapped souls, particularly those of mortals ensnared by black soul gems, and use their power to broker cruel bargains. Their true nature is alien and unknowable, but their power is beyond question, and they have even managed to bind a dragon to do their bidding. 88. Bosma are part human. In the book The Monomyth, a provocative and often overlooked passage claims that the Bosma, or the Wood Elves, once soiled Time's line by taking mannish wives. This poetic phrasing suggests that at some point in Aldmeri prehistory, the Bosma interbred with humans, introducing mixed blood into their lineage. While the literal truth of this is debated, it challenges the idea of the elves as being wholly separate from men. And like the heritage of the Bretons, it raises questions about how the lines between man and mer can sometimes be blurred. 89. Nords actually from Skyrim. Contrary to the mainstream belief that Nords originated from Atmora, some tales have claimed that their true birthplace is Skyrim itself. The folktale, Children of the Sky, claims that Kine, the divine widow of Shor, breathed life into the first of the Nords atop the throat of the world. This myth stands in tension with mainstream scholarly understanding, highlighting that even some of the most fundamental origin stories in Tamriel remain hotly disputed. 90. The Serpent Constellation. Unlike the other constellations which are fixed in the sky, the Serpent is a rogue sign, composed of unstars that wander the sky without apparent rhyme or reason. It is both a celestial anomaly and a spiritual outcast, embodying danger, chaos, and the unknown. In the Elder Scrolls Online, the Serpent manifests as a powerful celestial that seeks to unravel mortal life in order to restore nature, positioning itself as a cosmic predator. Its unpredictability makes it a symbol of corruption, wildness, and danger, just like the creature it represents. 91. Dunma Genealogy. The Dunma are a people who are obsessed with heritage. Like their Altmeri cousins, the Dunma of Morowind obsessively document their genealogy, with ancient records maintained in places like the Library of Andule in Molag Mar. These ancestral connections shape political alliances, social hierarchies, and even personal identities. They also serve an important religious function. Ancestor worship has been a fixture of Dunma religion since time immemorial, and even survives into the 4th Age after the fall of the Tribunal Temple. 92. Racial Phylogeny. This refers to the in-game book, Notes on Racial Phylogeny and Biology, which lays out the series' most direct explanation of interspecies reproduction. According to the text, a child is always born the same race as their mother, while also inheriting some physical or magical traits from the father. The book is part scientific treatise, part cultural anthropology, offering a rare in-universe attempt to rationalize racial hybridity in a magical world. From a practical standpoint, making it so children always inherit their mother's race removes the need to make dozens of models for half-races, which probably saves Bethesda a lot of development time. 93. Wine Knives. An item from Nordic myth, wine knives are enchanted blades that grow dull when sober, and only retain their deadly edge while the wielder is drunk. This idea fits perfectly with the Nord reputation as warriors and drinkers. While a fun concept, it's worth noting that it's only been mentioned in out-of-game sources, first appearing in Michael Kirkbride's Shor, Son of Shor, so its status in the canon is questionable at best. 94. Numidiumism. Mentioned briefly in the text The Dragon Break Re-Examined, Numidiumism is a mysterious and likely heretical belief system. Though the religion is never described in detail, it appears to involve worship of the Numidium, the artificial brass god built by the Dwemer. The cult is also described as being fueled by an obsession with eschatology, meaning that it is similar in nature to a doomsday cult. It's possible that the followers of Numidiumism believe that the brass tower will herald the end of the world, just as it helped to bring about the disappearance of its creators. 95. Humans were always on Tamriel. This controversial theory rejects the mainstream belief that humans migrated to Tamriel from Atmora, instead claiming that mankind has always existed on the continent. We've already discussed the Nord creation story that places their origin at the throat of the world, but there is another source to support humans being indigenous to Tamriel. The annotated Anuad contains an account of the Elnafey Wars in the Dorn era, claiming that the wandering Elnafey settled in Tamriel. Eventually, over time and the passage of generations, the descendants of the wandering Elnafey would gradually give rise to the various races of men. We'll probably never know the truth, but it's easy to see why the idea that humans are native to Tamriel would be useful for the Empire and other human realms. 96. Sword Singing. The mystical martial art of the ancient Yakudans, Sword singing was a fusion of combat, art, and magic. Practitioners, especially the elite Ansei, were capable of manifesting glowing Shahai, or spirit swords, weapons forged from sheer will and spiritual mastery. Sword singing represents the Redguard's deeply philosophical approach to warfare, where the sword becomes an extension of oneself. Though nearly lost after Yakuda's fall, fragments of this tradition survive in Hammerfell's warrior culture. If The Elder Scrolls VI is set in Hammerfell, as many expect, we may very well see it in action, serving a similar role to that of the voice in Skyrim. 97. Weaklings are actually snow elves. The Cowl, the Nordic tribe native to the Isle of Solstheim, believes that the Weaklings are the descendants of the ancient snow elves. This idea is expressed in dialogue in Blood Moon, and also hinted at in the book Avar Stonesinger. However, this idea is pretty much disproven in Skyrim. Weaklings and Falma are clearly shown to be distinct races. As for the Weaklings themselves, their actual origins are unclear, but the most likely explanation seems to be that they are related to the goblins which can be found elsewhere in Tamriel. 98. Mournhold City built over Dwemer City over Daedric City. In Morrowind's Tribunal expansion, players discover that Mournhold, capital of Morrowind, is laid atop a Dwemer ruin named Bamps Amshend, a massive complex filled with automatons. Deeper still is Norinen Dor, an ancient ruin dedicated to Daedra worship. This stacked city structure reflects the long and complex history of Mournhold, symbolizing how new civilizations are built, literally and spiritually, on the bones of the old. 99. Such. Such was a city located in the Gold Coast region of Cyrodiil, near the border with Hammerfell. It features heavily in the lore, but the city itself was cut from Oblivion's final release, probably due to development constraints. The ruins of Fort Such do appear in-game, implying that the city has either been destroyed or abandoned. However, with the release of ESO's Gold Road expansion, we finally got a chance to see the city in its full glory. 100. The Dragon Break. A dragon break occurs when linear time itself fractures, allowing multiple contradictory timelines to exist simultaneously. Named after Akatosh, the time god often represented as a dragon, these events can lead to paradoxes becoming retroactively true, such as the warp in the west, where every outcome of Daggerfall's ending happened simultaneously. The longest known dragon break, known as the Middle Dawn, occurred in the First Era, and was said to have lasted for 1,008 years. Out of game, dragon breaks also serve as a convenient way for the writers to tie together some of the more divergent strands of the lore. 101. Numidium Blueprints. The book Divine Metaphysics contains what appear to be blueprints or schematics for Numidium, the mechanical brass god of the Dwemer. Said to explain how the Dwemer used Kagranak's tools on the heart of Lorcan, the book features incomprehensible Dwemer glyphs and stylized illustrations of the god machine. Like most Dwemer writings, it defies easy understanding, but its title implies that the Dwemer were engineering not just a weapon, but a greater metaphysical phenomenon, one that would ultimately play a role in their disappearance. 102. Wasabi Trade. One of the more humorous asides in Elder Scrolls lore, the Wasabi Trade is first mentioned in the Pocket Guide to the Empire 2nd edition, which describes the Wasabi Run, a chain of islands in Chthonque discovered during Emperor Uriel V's invasion of Akavir. Apparently, wasabi became wildly popular back home in Tamriel, especially among the Nords. While likely tongue-in-cheek, the Wasabi Trade shows us how mundane things from our own reality can take on a different life in the Elder Scrolls universe. 103. Celestials. The Celestials are powerful, sentient embodiments of constellations, first introduced in the Elder Scrolls Online. Manifesting as powerful spirits, they include figures like the warrior, the mage, and the thief, each representing a guardian sign. Unlike typical Daedra or Aedra, Celestials are cosmic forces given form, suggesting a deeper connection between the stars and fate. Their emergence disrupts the balance of Mundus, and their presence challenges conventional understandings of what it means to be divine. 104. Elnifex. Elnifex is the primordial language of the Elnifey, the godlike ancestors of elves and men. Believed to be the original language of Nirn, its words are imbued with great magical power. Traces of this language still survive today, such as the word Akka, meaning dragon, and Ada, meaning spirit. The Elnifex script has been described as being almost entirely indecipherable to mortals, with words that shift as you look at them. Though it's now extinct, the language evolved into Aldmeris and the Elven languages, and even influenced the early human tongues of Atmora. 105. Guardian Signs. The Guardian Signs are the three primary constellations in Tamrielic astrology: the Warrior, the Mage, and the Thief. Each governs three lesser constellations, forming a 12-sign zodiac system. The only constellation not bound to a guardian is the Serpent, which moves erratically and is often seen as a symbol of chaos or danger. In-game, players have traditionally been allowed to choose one constellation as a birth sign, or a standing stone in the case of Skyrim, bringing unique powers and bonuses for the character. 106. Khanatan Biological Warfare. The Khanatan flu was one of the deadliest pandemics in Tamrielic history. While official records attribute the outbreak to natural causes, some theorize that the Argonians, or more likely, the sentient hiss trees they worship, may have intentionally unleashed the disease as some sort of biological weapon. This theory stems from the fact that the Argonians alone seemed immune to the plague, and that disease has always been one of Blackmarsh's greatest weapons against foreign invaders. In this light, it's possible that the pandemic was the Argonians' retaliation for centuries of slavery and humiliation at the hands of foreign powers. 107. Orur of Dunlane. The Orur of Dunlane is a mysterious glowing entity found in the Midden, deep below the College of Winterhold. According to Tolfdir, he was once a gifted mage at the college, but was transformed after some sort of magical accident. The Orur will offer cryptic guidance to the player during the Skyrim College questline. Some have theorized that he is connected to the Great Collapse, the mysterious cataclysm that destroyed much of Winterhold, and that his transformation somehow triggered this disaster. 108. Minotaurs. Minotaurs are horned, beast-like humanoids found throughout Cyrodiil and beyond. According to Imperial myth, they are the descendants of Empress Allesias and her lover, the winged bull Morowind. Their union produced a son, Belhaza the Man-Bull, the first Minotaur, who even ruled the Empire for a time. Despite these noble origins, they are often dismissed as savage beasts. Yet despite being supposedly primitive, they are still capable of working metal and wielding magic, leading some scholars to argue that they deserve to be counted among the more civilized races. 109. Nirn Testing Ground for Transcendence. One of the deeper metaphysical theories in Elder Scrolls lore suggests that Lorcan created the Mundus not as a punishment or a trap, but as a testing ground. This theory, explored in texts like the Spirit of Nirn, posits that mortals were given the gift of limitation specifically so they could find a way to escape it, to transcend their Aorbis and achieve a state of true enlightenment. In this view, death, suffering, and the passage of time are not curses, but trials through which true understanding might be earned. 110. Warp in the West. We already briefly touched on this when we discussed Dragon Breaks. At the end of the Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall, the activation of the Numidium resulted in a Dragon Break now known as the Warp in the West. This event allowed all 7 endings of the game to occur simultaneously, creating a new timeline where each faction gained control of the Numidium at once. On the eve of the warp, there were 44 city-states in Iliac Bay, but when the dust settled, only 4 remained. It also allowed Mannimarco, the King of Worms, to complete his apotheosis and become a god. Out of universe, this event is essentially a complicated retcon to consolidate a single cohesive canon for a game with multiple outcomes. 111. Self-reflection. A foundational concept in Elder Scrolls cosmology, Anuiel, the soul of Anu the Everything, created the Aorbis so that he could see and know himself. This divine act of self-reflection birthed order, chaos, and eventually mortality. Lorcan's creation of Mundus continued this chain, allowing lesser spirits to experience the same journey towards self-knowledge and awareness, albeit through suffering and fragmentation. In this way, all of reality is an echo of a god trying to understand itself, a mirror held up to the infinite. If that sounds confusing, that's because it is. But don't worry, we'll go into more detail when we talk about the godhead. 112. Faldrune. Faldrune is a scholar best known for his contrarian works, including the Dragon Break Re-Examined and the Lunar Lorcan. His writings often challenge established doctrines, such as denying the reality of dragon breaks, or proposing that Lorcan's creation of Mundus was a mistake. It should be noted that Faldrune's name is an anagram of Darn Fool, and his theories are largely regarded as red herrings. 113. Illusion of Death. This book recounts a visionary experience of Maruk, the monkey prophet of the Allesian order. In this vision, Maruk was visited by Saint Alesia, who spoke to him of truth, order, and divine law. This pivotal moment led to the formation of the Marukati Selective, a radical sect within the Allesian order devoted to purifying the world through metaphysical means. This would eventually culminate in their attempt to remove Akatosh from the Aorbis, resulting in a millennium-long dragon break known as the Middle Dawn. 114. Protonymics. A protonymic is a being's true name, a metaphysical identifier so powerful that it can be used to control, summon, or banish the entity. The concept was first introduced in Battlespire, where the protagonist uses Mehrunes Dagon's protonymic to force his retreat. Protonymics are part of a broader magical system known as nymics, based on the power of names. This power is practiced by Bosma priests known as name spinners, who can perceive a person's true name and reshape it to help change their physical form. 115. Temple Zero. Temple Zero is a self-described secretive philosophical society formed by revolutionaries, dissidents, and eccentric intellectuals who reject the dominant narratives of the Cyrodiilic Empire. They are particularly interested in the teachings of Maruk, the monkey prophet of the First Era. While not directly present in the games, it was created by users on the Elder Scrolls forums, and various in-game texts have been attributed to the group. Their beliefs would be outlined in a document known as the Null Manifesto. Their writings blur the line between fanfiction and official lore, challenging us to question what is canon, and emphasizing some of the stranger aspects of Elder Scrolls lore. 116. Sothasil City Location. The exact location of the clockwork city of Sothasil is wrapped in mystery, with the city itself being described as a metaphor made manifest. It's been variously said to lie in the steaming swamps of southern Morowind, somewhere within Black Marsh, beneath the city of Ebonheart, or even in a jar on Allesias' mantle, and that all of these are simultaneously true and false. In the Elder Scrolls Online, we see two portals to the Clockwork City, yet its actual geographical location is never revealed. It's said that the city is constantly moving, changing locations throughout different times, and that its true location may be in a different plane of reality altogether. 117. Shezareen. The Shezareen is a mythical figure believed to be an incarnation of the missing god Lorcan, who is also known as Shazar. It is mentioned in the Song of Pelennor, where it's hinted that this may be the true identity of Pelennor Whitestrake. Other suspected Shezareens include Ismir Wolfhearth, the Ash King of Skyrim, and Tiber Septim, who later became Talos. A popular fan theory claims that the protagonist in the Elder Scrolls games are also Shezareens, but this has never been confirmed. Ultimately, the Shezareen serves as a champion of mankind, and an eternal reminder of Lorcan's theme of transcendental struggle. 118. Soul Gem Immortality. Soul Gems are best known for their ability to trap the souls of fallen enemies, but some mages have used them to extend their own lifespans. In the Fourth Era, the rogue mage Malin Varen sought immortality by placing his soul inside Azura's star. Though he succeeded, the artifact was corrupted in the process, becoming the Black Star. To maintain his existence, the star required a constant influx of black souls, which his followers provided, before he was eventually defeated and purged from the star by the last Dragonborn. 119. Ankh. The Ankh, an ancient Egyptian hieroglyph representing life, appears in both Arena and Daggerfall as religious iconography. It was part of a broader inclusion of real-world symbols that were later phased out in Morowind, in favour of a more original aesthetic, as the series gradually developed its own religious mythologies to replace them. And the Ankh no longer holds any canonical significance in modern Elder Scrolls lore. And with that, the second layer of the iceberg has been conquered. Yet, the icy depths continue to stretch out far below, and as the light above you begins to fade, you can only see darkness beneath. Do you turn back now, or do you dare to delve deeper in search of forbidden knowledge? The choice is yours, so make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode in the series. And until then, take care.